Alright, here are some last minute tips on how you can blind solve a Rubik's Cube. Just going this up a little more. In this, I'm going to make it easier so you don't have to either remember as much or something like that. Anything just to make it easier. Alright. First tip would be your corner orientation part. Normally I'd have you remember this as 0, C, A, C, 0, 0, A. But instead, if you can memorize it slightly differently, then it can get rid of some of your memorization. As long as you remember it's only these four that have to be oriented. There's this one, this one, this one, and this one. As long as you remember those are the only four that have to be oriented, you can remember it as CA, CA. You don't have to remember any zeros, as long as you know which ones have to be oriented. So I don't have to memorize that is 0, that is 0, or that is 0. I can just say, okay, C, put it into position, and put it back, C, and then A. So like that, and then it would be the same for these two down here. I'm just not going to do them. So that's how you can shorten your time, or shorten the amount you have to think for the corner orientation step. I explained this step in my example blind solve. Basically, what I have is I have to do corner placement of 3. That's all I have left. And then I have to do parity. This is if I was blind solving. If you ever get in a position like that, you don't have to do either of them. Because since 3's are in the buffer zone, there's no setup. You would do the algorithm, and it would permute them. So now they're switched. And then for parity, you would just do it again, which would switch them back, and there's absolutely no point to that. You'd just be doing an algorithm twice when you don't have to do it at all. So that rarely comes up, but if you ever get in that position, you can skip that step. It's kind of useful, so you don't have to do either of them. I think that's really the only tip for corner placement. During the edge placement orientation step, if you get in a position where this only works for A, but there's a way you can make it work for the E sticker. I just don't remember the algorithm. If you ever have in the C location, your displacement zone, if that sticker ever has to go to A, you can do the corner placement algorithm they use to place them and to use parity, because it will switch these two and these two, and it's just a waste of time putting that over there. So instead, I can just do that algorithm, and it'll permute them the correct way. Just like that, and they've switched, and also the corners are switched like in the normal edge placement algorithm. You can do it for E, it will work that way, but I don't remember the algorithm you need to know for that. It's the mirror of it. It just, since the algorithm is really long and complex, it's kind of hard to remember it. Yeah, and there's one other thing that you can do in this step. Hold on, let me just get this in a good position first. I want to make this work. Alright, here we go. Wait a second. No, hold on. This is gonna take a while. How can I do this? Alright, no. Well, I'll get this eventually. Alright, I finally got the position I needed. It doesn't necessarily have to be like this, but if you ever get in a position where you're on disturbance zone, the edge that's going to be switched out, if that is ever turned, and so is another edge on a cube, like they're not oriented but they are placed, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the GH spot, it could be in any other spot. I just don't have an example like that. Oh, I do. One right here. I can show you what I mean. Well, all you have to do is position it so it is in the GH spot like this. Remember, it can be anywhere. And you have to position whichever one you want that has to be turned over here. And the only thing that you can't disturb is this edge. So you can turn up and right during this part. So like if I wanted to get that over there, I could just do that. Because this has to be turned. And what you're going to do, let me put that back. I'm just going to use these two as an example. You're going to, normally this would be my front. You're going to turn it 90 degrees counterclockwise. So now the two incorrect ones are on, or the two ones that aren't oriented are on the top layer. And they're turned, and they're not oriented, but they are placed. What you're going to do, you're going to twist the middle layer down, U. Middle layer down, U. Middle layer down, 2 U's. Middle layer up, U. Middle layer up, U. Middle layer up, 2 U's. Now if you look, these two edges are now oriented. So if you ever need to just take one edge and turn it, instead of having to do normally what you would do, let me show you what I had. Alright, what I had was this. Normally what you'd do is GH, because then it would turn each of the cubes, so you'd do G, then H, and just position them correctly. But instead you can do this, and you don't have to do the two. You just do that once, and it will solve itself in both locations. Alright, but in this case, like, let's say I want to turn this one, although that one doesn't have to be turned. I'm just going to do this to show you what to do. You get this over into the buffer zone. Remember, you can't turn up and right. Put it in. Do the algorithm. A second. Alright, and then put it back. And there we go, that's oriented. Although that one was oriented, now it's not. Just doing that for explanation. And I think that's the last step I can give you for aiding you in solving this. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.